before we fully get going, making sure that all of the streams are active in all their respective places. Cheers to you. Good morning. Just doing my kind of pre-party check-in, technical check-in, I guess we can call it. Yeah, we'll call it that. Pre-party technical check-in to make sure that things are actually working. Because if they're not, it gives me a chance to fix them, which is always good when you give yourself the time to fix things that may or may not be working. Excuse me. So if you are hearing this, let me know. I am very curious if that's the case. I just believe I went live on Facebook. Party page is up. Cool. And let me just make sure that the YouTubes are flowing. And indeed, they are. Awesome. Well, good morning. Good morning to you, Guitar Geeks. Cheers to you. And I hope that you're having a swell day. I'm certainly excited for today's guitar party. There are a lot of things I want to discuss today, and we'll get into those specifically right around 11 o'clock. But for those of you that are popping in early, I'll give you a brief overview. We're going to take a guitar routine inventory today, and there's really three key elements that you have to have, and these three elements actually play off of one another, and that's what I want to discuss today, so that you can look at your guitar routine and say, yeah, I have those things. Okay, I feel good about going forward. So we'll get into that, like I said, around 11 o'clock, but for right now, just checking in on comments, checking in on technical things. And if you have a question now, any question goes right now because the party has not officially started. So let me know in the comments, and we'll get rolling. Looks like you guys can hear me all okay, which is fantastic. Hello, Vic G. Hello, Matt M. Don and Joe from up in Helena. Mark K. Welcome. Puppy Doc is tuned in. Over on the YouTube side, we got a whole bunch of folks. Darth R is here, Noah T, Leslie O, Raven, Gary L, Joe Bayer H, John G, Noah T, and Noah T says, I can smell you. So technology has clearly advanced to the degree where you're now getting sense through the internet. So anyways, I'm glad everybody could tune in today. It's really awesome. Let's see. What else we have? I want to check over on the Facebook end of things. Hello, JR. Hello, Eric. Let's see. Lee W. Hello. So good to see everybody. So darn good to see everybody's names. I guess I can't see you in person, but you know what I mean. You get the idea. Let me just close a couple windows over here, and we'll dig into some questions. I saw one from Pete. Pete asked this: Tony, have you ever played a B&H, Blazer and Hanks guitar? I have not, although I've seen pictures of yours, Pete, and I have to say, I would like to play one. They look fantastic. It seems like they're a very traditional build, which is awesome and definitely right up your alley if I know anything about your taste in guitars, Pete. Also, Pete, I wanted to say I'm sorry that your Venta air washer, two of them, arrived broken, but it sounds like maybe you got a good one directly from Venta. I haven't had any issues ordering through Amazon, but I also, they ship so many things. I don't know what the deal is with that. But hopefully you are full on humidified at this point in time. Let's see. Do I have some tricks for barring? I just can't pull it off. Yeah, actually, let me grab a guitar. I'll share with you a couple of things that have worked for me. Bar chords are always kind of it feels like a wrestling match, and it even depends on the guitar. I favor, if I'm playing something with a lot of bar chords, I do favor a shorter scale guitar, meaning distance between the nut and saddle. A short scale would be 24.5, whereas a full scale would be 25.4, or a longer scale. But that's not something you can choose, in the middle of playing, like, oh, there's bar chords, I got to go grab my short scale guitar. So regardless of scale length, let me share with you a couple of things that have worked for me in regards to bar chords. And I want to say, this is from YouTube. The question comes from Harmless Rebel. And I'm sure a lot of you guitar geeks have the same very question. So this is a great topic to dig into. So with bar chords, I think first and foremost, the first thing I'll share with you is that they are physically demanding. So if you don't get them right away, don't give up on them because it will take some time. But I'm going to just use a basic full 6-string bar chord here. This is on across all 6 strings. This is a quote-unquote E-shaped bar chord. And the first tip that I want to offer is it has to do with your barring hand. And this is really with any bar chord. More often than not, when you're first beginning bar chords, you want to approach the fingerboard with your finger kind of flat. And that's actually not, it hasn't worked for me. What I found that works better is if I roll my finger to the outside, like the harder part, right? So move it off the fleshy part and onto the harder part, you get much better contact, right? So you can actually use less quote unquote strength because you're rotated on that harder part of the finger. So that's one thing. Whoops. The next thing that I'll recommend is that you take your picking hand, arm specifically, and actually leverage it so that you're pulling or pushing. Hold on, let me get this right. You're pulling the guitar towards you, right? So if I'm pulling, I'm not doing this very hard, so don't like squeeze your guitar, but essentially you are squeezing your guitar lightly so it forces the neck into your fretting hand. So that'll help you gain a little bit more clearer contact with the strings and reduce the buzzing, right? So we're using our picking hand arm as a lever, which is something that I can't remember where I picked that up. But when I first heard that, I thought, that's a little bizarre. Your picking hand has everything, has to do with clarity of your bar chords. And when I tried it, I was like, oh my gosh, that actually is a huge difference maker. This works great if you're standing up and playing with a Strat because you have a little bit more freedom with the guitar. So number one, roll your finger over to the bonier side so you get better contact with the strings. Number two, use your picking hand arm almost as a lever. And the last tip I have is to gradually work up to bar chords. Now, I say this because oftentimes we look at bar chords as it's a 6-string bar chord, and there's no middle ground. There's actually quite a lot of middle ground with bar chords. You can transfer it or kind of reduce it to a simple power chord where you're fretting just the low 3 strings, which will work in song. It's not going to sound as full as a 6-string bar chord, but it fits the space. And if this is all you can do at that present moment, at least you can keep your rhythm going. At least you can keep filling in chords as they come through the song. So that's one option. The other option is to just take the middle part of the chord, right? The A, D, and G string. You can throw the bass in if you want. That alleviates the barring. But with this, you have to mute the high strings, right? You don't want any extraneous noise or any extra notes. So we have that. That's another adjustment you could make. And then the final is to take the high 4 strings, which is a good, again, middle ground. And these middle grounds are not, you're not cheating and you're not cutting corners. What you're doing is taking small steps up to the bigger bar chord, right? So if you play just the low 3 strings, you're not cheating. You're not like, oh, I guess I'm lazy. I'm not playing the full chord. That's really not the case here. You're trying to still play the chord that a song may demand, but you're practicing a piece of the chord so that eventually you will build up the strength to play the full chord. That's an awesome question, and I really, really appreciate you asking that because I know for a fact bar chords are a problem, a plague amongst guitar geeks, if you will. But if you learn how to use them and make them work for you, they actually are quite the gate opener. They can open up a whole new world. I'm at a loss for words today. I'm not finding the good words. This is an awesome response to that same question. R.R. Stout on YouTube says, try tuning your guitar a half step down, which effectively reduces the tension on the strings, and it will make the strings a little bit easier to press. Yeah, if you have a longer scale guitar or even a short scale guitar and you're just starting bar chords, tuning a half step down will certainly help you get the technique, and it will help you develop that muscle memory so that when you do tune up to standard pitch, you'll kind of it's another stepping stone, I guess, if you will. Awesome recommendation. Kraz asks, what model Taylor is that? It is a 517, mahogany back and sides, torrefied spruce top, and this was sent to me when they first released the 17 series, or the 17 shape, I should say. And it's kind of a slope shoulder dread shape, and I really dig it. They haven't asked for it back yet, So I've just been really enjoying playing it. It's actually a really clear guitar. It's got the V class bracing, and I feel like it's generally punchier. I know Taylors are generally more brilliant sounding, more kind of edgy, but this actually has some warmth to it, but still has this strong and focused projection, which I really, really enjoy and have enjoyed. Mark D asks, any thoughts on looping? It is a great tool. It's an awesome tool, and again, I think one of the one of the pitfalls in looping is that you buy a loop pedal and you think, boom, I'm going to start looping right now. And effectively you can, but looping takes practice. I remember when I first bought a loop pedal, it was a Boss RC20XL. It was a two pedal looper. It was red. Great looping pedal. And I remember getting it, taking it home and thinking, I'm going to just do this. This is going to be amazing. Plug it into my amp, plug the guitar in. And I couldn't get the loops to line up. Which really kind of extinguished my momentum, if you will. So what I would recommend, if you want to get into looping, it's a great tool. You can practice improvisation, you can practice singing, you can practice chord voicings on top of other chord voicings. It opens up an entire avenue of being able to practice and essentially play by yourself, but feel like you're playing with other people. But if you're wanting to get into looping, I would strongly recommend, underscore strongly, lots of exclamation points. I would strongly recommend working with a metronome. And I say this not to suck any fun out of your playing sessions, but the stronger relationship you have with rhythm, timing, tempo, the better your looping experience will be. Simple as that. If you can't play in time, or if you struggle with playing in time right now, if you go to loop, it's gonna add on the difficulty, and you may feel some frustration. So going into looping, please play with a metronome and really get used to keeping a nice steady time. The steadier time that you keep, that translates into a nice solid clean loop. So there's no hiccups and there's no kind of stutters. That was the first thing I noticed when I got a looper, and I wasn't really. I didn't have a great relationship with rhythm. I wasn't practicing with a metronome. This was, I want to say I was probably 19 or 20. But and nonetheless, play with a metronome. It will greatly help your looping. There was some chat about the Leafs, and I'm trying to find it. It was from Cross. Cross says, "Go Leafs, go! First place in the NHL, a rare sight." It is a rare sight. The Leafs have the Leafs. I should say the F, not Leaves. The Leafs have a great team this year, and I'm excited to see them likely go into the playoffs. And I hope, for the Leafs' sake and for the Leafs fans' sake, they can get past the first round. That's not a dig, but that's a true hope, because they've had some. They've wrestled with that over the past quite a few years. Bubba Paul, great name, asks a question here. Tony, can you give some guidance on muting strings when flat picking so all the strings do not keep ringing? This is an interesting one, because I guess let me try and I'm gonna actually play something that I'm flat picking to see if I can describe what I'm doing, because I have a tendency to let the strings ring, especially when you're playing in a given key. A lot of flat picking involves picking around open chords and keys that are friendly within the keys that are friendly with using open strings, right? So D, C, G, etc. That's why you see a lot of bluegrass guitarists capo up to the second fret to play things in A, or to even play things in D, or to play things in E, etc. So because flat picking generally leans on those open strings, if they ring out, it's not the end of the world. But given your question, let me see if I can. That's a great question. I don't. I guess to clarify your question, because a lot of times when I'm picking, I do let the strings ring. Are you talking, just to clarify, are you talking like closed position stuff? Or are you talking open position stuff? So open position, I generally let the strings ring. I wanted to play through some things just to kind of hear and feel what I was actually doing, because sometimes I don't think about it. But yeah, Bubba Paul, if in the comments you could let me know if you're referring to closed position or open position, because a lot of times with string muting, what it has to do is how you keep your fretting hands, your fretting fingers close to the string, so you can kind of cut them off, if you will. And I would say that in terms of flat picking, yeah, I've actually never thought of that. That's great. That's a great question. I really appreciate you asking that. I'm sorry, I'm kind of struggling to answer that right now, but if you could clarify closed position or open position, that'll help me kind of gain some direction here, and hopefully we can get at least some kind of answer. Next question comes from Eric Bogo of he's a well-strung plucker from Calgary, Alberta. How do you know that you are entered in the contest for the guitar giveaway? Last month, I received an email congratulating me on completing the monthly practice plan. This month, I did not. So if you have completed the entire practice plan and marked everything complete for that month, so this month we will be giving away for folks completing the practice plan in February. If you have marked every exercise complete, you're in. Quite plain and simple. Your picture is on that. That's a mirrored image. It's on that dartboard back there, and then I'll throw a dart. So as long as it says complete and you've received that practice badge within your membership, you're good to go. You don't even have to think about it at all. Let's see if we can get another couple questions. Oh, cool. This is awesome. This is from James B. over on the YouTube side. I'm really pumped because soon I'll be getting a D28. Are there any recommendations that you'd recommend to go along with my D28? Gosh, yes. I will say this. If you're looking at getting a D28 and you're thinking, okay, what can I get to help bring out the most tone of this guitar? Number one, Santa Cruz parabolic tension strings. Plain and simple, get the mid tensions. I think you'll really dig them. And I say, a lot of times I recommend these strings, and it's simply, it's not just because, oh, I like these strings and oh, I like the Santa Cruz Guitar Company. I do like the strings and I love the Santa Cruz Guitar Company, but I try out every string that comes out on the regular. Maybe not every string, but I try out new strings regularly. And I still, to this day, this has probably been 3 years running now, I have not found a set of strings that I like better. So that's why I continually recommend those strings. I really dig them. So that's number one. I also would recommend an Elliott Capo. And these are made by Scott Elliott. And they are truly phenomenal capos. They're not inexpensive. They're about $100 to $150. Yes, for a capo. But I think it is 100% worth it. And actually, Michael Watts over in the UK just reviewed an Elliott Capo, and he was equally stunned after he played it. He couldn't believe it. He's like, "This is awesome. It's like the same tone that you get from open strings, but you have the capo." A lot of times, capos can quote unquote suck the tone out of your guitar because they don't fit firmly on the neck, or they absorb tone, or they absorb sound. Not the case with an Elliott Capo. They're convenient, they work amazing, and they are machined to exact specification. So Santa Cruz parabolic tension strings, Elliott Capos. I cannot recommend Native Son straps enough. I have not found a better strap for the acoustic guitar. Again, I try out a bunch of different straps. People send me straps all the time, various companies, and I have still not found one better than Native Son straps. For acoustic guitar, I would recommend the 3-inch wide hemp-backed strap. And I say this because the width is really comfortable, because acoustic guitars are generally bigger. It's nice to have a wider strap to distribute the weight. But secondly, having the hemp backing actually creates almost a strap that doesn't slip around. So once you get your guitar in a nice position while you're standing up, it doesn't slip around. That hemp backing kind of is a little bit rougher, so it's kind of, I want to say sticks to your clothing, but that's not an accurate description. It just doesn't slide around all that much. So Native Son's 3-inch wide hemp back strapped, incredible company, incredible straps. Those are the three things I'd recommend. Beyond that, you could look at pickups for certain. K&K Pure Western Mini is one of my favorites. I really, really dig that pickup. I'm trying to think of other things that you might want to look at. I'm out of recommendation. Those four, definitely three, and then of course the pickup if you're interested in plugging your guitar in. That would be an awesome addition as well. Sid asks this. Well, actually, two questions. What is it about the guitar / music that you love? And then the second, have you ever played alongside rarer instruments like the Indian tablas, etc.? What is it about guitar and music that I love? There's so much. I mean, number one, it's been a constant in my life. Even before I played guitar, which was basically my entire younger years up until 18. I started playing guitar at 18, but I remember getting my first tape, which was Pearl Jam's 10. I got it I think I got it in the 4th grade. My brother got it for me. And then I was just super, super excited to have it. And then I kept listening to it, and it had this effect on me. And from then and there, it was like I was in hook, line, and sinker. I just noticed that my computer is not plugged in, so I'm going to plug in my computer. But I'm going to also tell a story while I do this. So in terms of playing with rarer instruments, I have never played a lot. I guess the quote-unquote rarest instrument that I've played alongside is a cello. We did it as a bluegrass band. In fact, we played a wedding, and one of the attendees of the wedding was a cello player, created this awesome jam session. But when I worked at the Old Town School of Folk Music, I actually studied the tabla, and I did 2 sessions, which was 2 sessions of 8 weeks. It was incredible. It was an amazing learning experience because the tabla, for those that aren't aware or have never heard of it, it's an Indian percussive instrument that has melody to it. It has different pitches, different tones, and I just remember being amazed at 2 little drums creating so many sounds. Not to mention, there's literally an entire spoken language that helps you actually play the tabla. So I gained a newfound respect for other types of music, specifically the tabla and tabla music, because it was mind-blowing. Really incredible stuff. Great question, Sid. I'm going to just plug my computer in for a moment, because if I don't, I'm going to cut out, and I don't want that to happen. So I'll be right back. All right. I got the little charging lightning bolt, and that feels good. Makes me all comfortable. Let's see if there's any other. Let me see if there's any other questions. Looks like there's a little bit of a delay on Facebook. Yeah, I'm not sure why that is, but I can't. I have to say that sometimes the order in which I turn things on creates a subtle delay between the two platforms. So just pick your favorite. Just pick your favorite, and I think that would probably work out the best. Another question from Rob S. over on the Facebook side. Just had my new HD28 set up with Santa Cruz low tension. Love the action, but do I want to switch out with mid tension for that guitar? This is a great question, and it really comes down to personal preference. I prefer the mid-tension strings on the larger bodied instruments because I'm able to pull a little bit more volume, and the tone seems to be a little bit thicker to me. But check this out. With the Santa Cruz parabolic tension strings, a lot of times when you get your guitar set up specifically for a set of strings, the nut slots are adjusted to accommodate the gauge of the strings. That's not necessarily the case with Santa Cruz parabolic tension strings, because the core wire is actually what creates the core wire variation is what creates the various tension. I believe, best of my knowledge, the outside diameter stays the same. That being said, you can go back and forth between the two sets of strings nearly flawlessly, but you will notice a neck relief change because of the tension. If you switch to mid tension, chances are you will likely have to subtly tighten your truss rod to accommodate for that extra tension. So just keep that in mind. But that's the beauty about those strings, is you can kind of go back and forth without vast variations to your setup. Usually just a truss rod tweak, and that'll take care of it. Awesome question. Great question. I'm just looking through a couple questions here. I need to get caffeinated. Ladies and gentlemen. It was a long night. I'm not gonna lie. Emerson was He did good, but it was a long night. You know what I mean? For those that don't know, Emerson's my son. He is 5 months old as of last month. He'll be 6 months old this month. That's insane. Anyways, um, so new question from Jason Perry, who's a brand new. I'm sorry, not a question, but more of a statement. He says, "I'm a brand new member." Well, welcome, Jason. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. Um, Question from Peg Smith. This will be the last question, then we'll dig into the workshop today. Let's see. A question: is it a problem to put a lighter gauge string on than recommended? Not necessarily. With acoustic guitars, I always try and steer folks away from going too light because it's not necessarily the best for tone. It can get kind of puny and tinny sounding the lighter you go. That being said, there's nothing wrong with putting lighter strings, lighter than a light gauge, like extra lights on an acoustic guitar if it helps it be more comfortable for you. Also, with that being said, you will have to get your guitar set up specifically for those strings. I noticed that there's a couple comments about delay. So what I wanted to do before we dig into the workshop, let me hardwire my laptop to the actual internet so that we get maybe a stronger connection, and that'll fix the delay. Give me one moment. Okay. 80. I am so excited you're here. To all those that are frequent Guitar Party alumni and attenders, welcome. For those of you that are new members, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. We do this every month, and it's always a great time to connect with you all and share a little bit of tidbits of knowledge that'll help you out on your guitar journey, but also just take some time to celebrate and reflect on the last month. What went well? How do you feel about your guitar journey? And that's exactly what we're going to dig in today. So for those of you that are new, here's how it works. I kick it off with a workshop. Today, it's all about taking guitar routine inventory so that you can make sure you have the necessary pieces to get the most out of your playing sessions. So we'll get into that, and then we'll celebrate some TAC-iversariys with some fellow TAC members. We're going to look at some performances from your fellow TAC family, and we'll be giving a guitar away at the end of the workshop, or the end of the guitar party. And that dartboard back there, I always do that. The dartboard back there has pictures of everyone who completed the practice plan for February on it. And what I do at the end is I throw a dart. Whoever it lands on wins a Taylor GS Mini shipped directly to your door, just for being an awesome guitar geek and being a lucky guitar geek too. So that is what is on scoop on this. That is what's on tap for today. That's the scoop for today. Mixing up a lot of words today, but we'll make it through. I promise. And once I finish this cup of coffee, I'll be flying around. You'll think I sprouted wings. If at any point today, and I want to encourage you to do this, if at any point today you have a question, please put #question in the comments. Once you do that, that allows me to collect those questions and answer them at a very specific point in our guitar party. In fact, I've got one coming up after our first performance, and then again after we'll go through another couple of performances, and I'll do another round of Q&A. I like to consolidate those questions because it's nice to just kind of break away from the guitar party and the workshop setting to just kind of chat with you and answer those questions. So if at any point in time today you do have a question, again, #question in the comments, and that will allow me to collect them and answer them all in kind of a batch, if you will. So hopefully the delay issues kind of have been, I guess, remedied. It seems like Facebook is having an issue. Makes me wonder if it's an issue with Facebook, but can't control that. So that being the case, let's dig into the workshop. So let's take a guitar routine inventory, and I want to give you an overview, and then we'll dig into each piece of the inventory, or each piece that I hope that is present within your guitar journey. And now that after this workshop, if you know the pieces, you can go and seek out the pieces that you may very well be lacking. And let's get a helicopter view. So what are the pieces? Well, first you have your guitar routine, and that's almost a separate entity, and I'm going to treat that separate today. Then you have the pieces of your guitar routine: fun, focus, and progress. That's it. 3 things. It's an equation. Fun plus focus equals progress, and that's what you want in your guitar routine. So let's break apart each of those things and kind of identify where they come from and how they actually influence your guitar routine. because it's almost like a domino effect. And a lot of times people don't make this connection. So I'm going to help you make this connection right now if you haven't already. So, your guitar routine. First of all, your guitar routine is directly influenced by how consistent you are. Plain and simple. Your guitar routine is you consistently showing up and playing your guitar day after day after day. Doesn't sound difficult, but once you throw life in there, it can get difficult, okay? So that's why I always recommend playing 10 minutes a day. And immediately, I know some folks may be hearing this and saying 10 minutes a day, you're not going to get better in 10 minutes a day, plain and simple. And I completely disagree. 10 minutes a day is easy enough to complete day after day. It keeps you consistent. And notice, I never said you had to stop playing after 10 minutes, right? If you're playing 10 minutes for your day, or if you're playing 10 minutes that day and life's just busy and crazy, you can stop after 10 minutes and feel good about what you just did. If you have some extra time and you're kind of hitting that zone where you're like, wow, I'm really digging my playing session, my practice session, you can keep going past 10 minutes. That 10 minutes is a starter step to get you playing the guitar every single day. You can always go beyond 10 minutes if you have the time and if you want to. Okay, so in terms of developing consistency in your guitar routine, that's essentially consistency and guitar routine do go hand in hand. You need one key element, and that is fun. If it is not fun, you will not be consistent. If it is fun, you will yearn to play the guitar. You'll want to play the guitar for that next playing session. So fun is directly related to how consistent you will be with the guitar. So if you have fun, you will have a solid guitar routine, plain and simple. But let's talk about fun for a second. Those of you that are starting the guitar might think, I'm not at a stage where I can have fun because I have to learn all this stuff first and then I'll be able to have fun. Those of you that are coming back to the guitar after a long time away might think, yeah, I will have fun eventually, but I got to brush up on these skills first and then I'll be able to have fun. Notice the common thread with those two statements. Quote, and then I'll be able to have fun. That's not true. That's simply not true. The moment you pick up the guitar, the first day you pick up the guitar, you should focus on fun. Plain and simple. Why? Because fun breeds consistency, breeds a solid guitar routine. So choose things that are fun. All too often I hear guitar players say, you know what? I'm not having any fun with the guitar. I know I have to learn all these things and I should be learning this. Have to and should, I don't want in your vocabulary, plain and simple. If it's not fun, pick something else. If you think that you'd have fun playing a solo or trying to improvise and you're a brand new guitar player, play a solo. Try your best at playing a solo. If you pursue fun and you do things that make guitar fun for you, it's different for everybody, you will play consistently. You will have a consistent guitar routine. So yes, the number one piece of inventory for your guitar routine is you have to have fun. Fun has to be present. And that could be you working on a song, trying to achieve some aspiration that you set for yourself, which reminds me, our next guitar party will be the 90-day goal setting workshop. And I'll mention that here. I'll go into a little bit more details about that later. But bottom line, you must have fun. If you don't have any fun, you won't be consistent, and the guitar will actually end up in the corner of your room collecting dust or in the case under the bed. And I say this because the first Tackiversary I'm going to go into today is somebody that was literally in that same spot. They put the guitar in the corner and it just sat there. But they committed to a small amount of time playing every day and having fun, and you'll see where they ended up. So that's the first item, fun. You must have fun in your guitar routine. The next thing is focus. And for those of you who haven't caught the Acoustic Tuesday episode this week, please, double please check it out. And I say this for the benefit of all guitar geeks, the benefit of anybody who watches it. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I'm simply saying that in that episode of Acoustic Tuesday, we look specifically at behavior science and how it can actually influence your guitar routine. So there's 5 different folks I look at, 5 different books I reference. And one of them that I reference is Anders Ericsson's book, Peak. And I've likely referenced it on the show and parties before. But Anders Ericsson studied or came up with this notion of purposeful practice. And there's some key ingredients in purposeful practice, 4 to be exact. And I go into those in detail in the Acoustic Tuesday show. I'm not going to do the whole thing right now. But one of those ingredients is intense focus. Now, intense focus doesn't mean that you're in like a hot room sweating and playing your guitar for 10 minutes and it's like, oh my God, I got to do this. It's super intense and aggressive. That's not what I mean at all. Intense focus, and it has to be on something that is outside of your comfort zone. How often as a guitar geek do you feel like, man, I find myself playing the same thing day in and day out. I've been playing the same 5 things forever. I fall victim to this too. I'm not saying that I'm exempt from this. I definitely fall victim to this too. But I catch myself now. Before I didn't. Now I do. You have to have focus in your practice sessions. That focus should be on something that is outside your comfort zone. Plain and simple. If it's outside your comfort zone, just outside your comfort zone, not something crazy, just outside your comfort zone, because that means you're pushing your skills. That means you're shooting past your current boundary, which means you will get better. That's the piece. And quite simply, as a guitar geek, as a human being, we don't want to be uncomfortable, ever. We never want to be uncomfortable. Playing something that you're not familiar with is uncomfortable. But if you have the focus for at least 10 minutes to do that, you will get better. And that leads to our next point. We'll get there in one moment. But what do you focus on? Sit down to play. What do you focus on? Well, obviously I'm speaking mostly to members of Tony's Acoustic Challenge. Nearly 95% of the folks that show up for the guitar parties are Tony's Acoustic Challenge members. And the beautiful thing about that is you're already focusing on the things that will make you better. They're pulled from the 5 categories. I've looked at music as a whole. I've looked at my entire guitar journey, and I've looked at the things that made me better and the things that had the biggest impact on learning songs, playing with other people, being able to play a song solo and throw in little riffs and licks and stuff. And it boils down to 5 things: technique, licks, improvisation or soloing, rhythm guitar, and chord transitions. Transitions. Those are the 5 things. And that's it. You can trace any piece of music to those 5 things. Actually playing a piece of music, you can trace to those 5 things. There's academic knowledge. That's a different category. We'll set that aside. But in terms of playing the guitar, you can boil it down to those 5 things. Every song that you play has those 5 things. There is a technique. There is a lick involved. Sometimes it's an intro lick. Sometimes it's a signature riff. But there's something in there. There is some element of improvisation or soloing in there. There is rhythm guitar technique, right? Percussive rhythm, finger picking rhythm, flat picking rhythm, different strumming patterns. And there is chord transitions, meaning songs have more than one chord, and you have to get one from one to the other. So yes, it literally boils down to those 5 things. And that's what I want you to focus on, right? And again, as I mentioned, most of the folks that are tuning in are folks that are Tony's Acoustic Challenge members of the TAC fam, I lovingly refer to you as. And you don't even have to worry about that. It's off your plate. It's not even a thought, because I've taken care of that for you. You log in, press the start button, boom. It's one of the 5 categories. You can sit down, have your 10 minutes of focus, and boom, that leads us to the next thing, which is progress. There's 2 elements of progress. One is achieving it. And if you have fun and if you have focus, you will achieve progress just by virtue of having those 2 things. It's like a math equation. Fun plus focus equals progress. There's no way around it. It's a definitive rule. If you're having fun, that leads to a consistent guitar routine. Those 2 go hand in hand. I've already discussed that. If while you're playing and having fun, you focus on one of those 5 categories of improvement, you will achieve progress, plain and simple. And I've heard this time and time again from a number of different TAC members, a number of different people that I've helped prescribe this method to. And at the beginning, they always say, Tom, I didn't buy the 10 minutes. I didn't think it was going to be a thing that was going to make me any better. But I was going to try it. So they tried it. And what happens? 10 minutes a day. They're working on something that's just outside of their comfort zone, that's pushing their skill level. They don't feel the progress every single day. But after a month, they look back and they think to themselves, oh, wow, okay, this is all clearly added up. So I want you to think of that 10 minutes as adding a penny to a piggy bank. I almost said savings jar, but piggy bank is way cooler. Adding a penny to a piggy bank. And over time, those pennies add up. I want you to think of those 10-minute practice sessions, those 10-minute focus sessions, focusing on one of the 5 categories as adding change to a piggy bank. No, you're not going to get rich overnight. But in a month, in a year, in 5 years, that adds up. And pretty soon, what started as just a small pile of loose change turns into a vacation fund or a new guitar. I am talking to a guitar geek here, so let's just be on point here. New guitar, right? So I guess what I'm saying here is these 3 things that I want you to have within your guitar routine, within your guitar journey, go hand in hand. And having a guitar routine, striving to have a guitar routine, is really the first piece of the puzzle. And fun influences that. If you have fun, you'll have a steady and consistent guitar routine. If you have a steady and consistent guitar routine where you're having fun and focusing on one of the 5 areas of guitar improvement, you will achieve progress. It's like a chain reaction. So you can't have one and not have the other. So I wanted to share this with you because of 2 reasons. Number 1, I want you to look at your guitar routine thus far, your guitar journey thus far, and either recognize areas where or when you didn't have these things and maybe now you do, or look at your guitar journey at this present moment and think to yourself, am I lacking something? Can I change something? Because if you change one thing, it will influence those other factors, and likely it will set you on the track to pull out of a guitar rut. And oftentimes I hear it's like, man, Tone, you're right. I've been playing the same 5 things time and time and time and time and time again. And you know what? I haven't gotten any better. But now that I focus on something new, something just outside my comfort zone, I've gotten better in the last month than I have over the last 2 years. So again, this is a chance for you to look at your guitar journey thus far and recognize a point when you didn't have this and that maybe now you currently do, or you can kind of intervene and say, okay, what piece am I lacking? And again, if you find that piece, if you're able to integrate that, it will influence those other pieces and you'll set yourself up on the right track to have progress every single day. And to me, that's a huge win. To me, that is, in my opinion, the definition of success. If I can sit down with the guitar every day and become better than I was the day before, I'm like walking on a rainbow, holding a unicorn's hand and spreading sprinkles all over the land. That kind of rhymed too. Anyways, the second reason I bring up this guitar inventory, fun, focus, and progress, is because it does offer us a chance to reflect. Oh, that was the other piece of progress I wanted to mention. A necessary piece of progress is, yes, recognizing it, but also looking back to help you recognize it. Identify what the starting point was and where you are now, and see how much you've grown. And the second reason I bring up this inventory is that our next live guitar party will be a 90-day workshop. We do this every 90 days. And we do this because I want you to recalibrate your goals, right? Maybe you set a goal at the beginning of the year, and maybe you've achieved that goal, or maybe you're well on your way to achieving that goal. We still have a month left. If so, awesome. The 90-day workshop will help you identify what your next goal is. Or maybe this is the scenario. Man, I came blasting into 2021. I had this amazing goal set up, and you know what? Something didn't go right, and I'm not on track at all. In fact, I feel like maybe I failed. No, you didn't fail. The 90-day workshop is a check-in to say, okay, how's that goal going? Cool, you achieved it? Or no, you didn't achieve it. You've never failed. If you didn't achieve the goal, all you have to do is adjust some of the parameters. Maybe you need to set more milestones. Maybe you need to look at the goal and maybe you need to trim it down a little bit. Whatever the case may be, that 90-day workshop is your chance to look back at the last 90 days, see how things went, and then create a new plan for the next 90 days. Why 90 days? Because a year is simply too long. A year is simply too long, and a month is simply too short. 90 days is the sweet spot because you can achieve a ton in 90 days, probably more than you realize if you follow a framework that you design for yourself with your unique guitar goals kind of in focus. And that's exactly what I'll help you with in the 90-day workshop. And that's going to happen next live party, which let me just go ahead and I'll spill the beans on when it is. April 7th at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. It follows the same format as each and every monthly guitar party in that it's the first Wednesday of the month at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. It will be a different format, I should say, but it's the same schedule. Okay, so please attend next week because we're going to take exactly what we discussed today And it gives you, again, a chance to reflect on your guitar journey thus far. And we're going to put it in action next month when we do the 90-day goal setting workshop. You'll have all the handouts will be delivered to you via email, so you can fill them out. For those of you that like the digital version, you'll have the digital version. For those of you that like printed out, pen to paper type, that's me. You can print it out and follow along with me. It's going to be a super fun time, and I set my goals alongside you, because as guitar geeks, we each have a unique goal pertaining to our unique guitar journey and the aspirations that we're trying to achieve. So I'm really excited for that, if you can't tell already. But I do want to go into a story that actually relates to this guitar routine inventory that I just discussed, because so many points are hit with this Tackiversary. And it's from Michael K. He's celebrating, or I should say he's nearing his third Tackiversary. And you'll see what I mean here as I read it. Michael K. says this, okay? May 15th, 2018. That was my 45th birthday, and the day I decided to start my last attempt at learning to play guitar. The journey started out about 35 years before, when I got my first guitar. I was 10 going on 11. That lasted for about 6 months, including twice-a-month lessons. I tried again when I was about 26 and got my first acoustic. That consisted of trying to self-teach with tab that was starting to show up online then. That lasted about 3 weeks. I bought an acoustic electric in 2015. That lasted about a month. So here Michael K. is looking back at his guitar journey thus far and saying, you know what? 35 years ago, I started this journey, and I simply dabbled and stopped, dabbled and stopped, dabbled and stopped. I got a guitar, I started a form of lessons, and I got to a certain point, and I stopped. And then a little bit later, I tried again, I got to a certain point, and then I stopped. And that pattern repeated 3 different times. So here we go, bringing you up to the present. So I turned 45. That's old, LOL. I glanced over to the corner of the room where a guitar was still in a stand. I just shook my head. I was never going to learn that thing if I never play it. Now check this out. This is the promise he made to himself. I made myself a promise. 5 minutes a day for a year. No excuses. I have 5 damn minutes. So he took the 10-minute rule and trimmed it down even further, saying, you know what? This is my last chance. And if I don't have 5 minutes a day to play guitar, maybe it's not for me. So he committed to this for a year. So he says this. After that, if it didn't stick, then I would give up, ever kidding myself and trying again. The final journey had started. I found a good online beginner's course and kept with that 5-minute promise. Within a week, it was up to 10 minutes. Then after a couple more weeks, it was up to a half hour a day. By the end of the first month, it was an hour spread throughout the day. So right there, we have kind of this significant piece of his journey in that small step of 5 minutes a day led to longer practice sessions. It's just what I've been saying with the 10-minute rule. If you commit to 10 minutes a day, you can stop after 10 minutes and say, I did it. I did the thing I set out to do. Or you can keep going. And it's clear that Michael K. was like, I'm into this. I'm going to keep going. Let's continue. 5 months into it all, I found TAC. I gave that a shot. I was already doing 10 minutes a day. After a year, I had kept my promise to myself. Every day. What to do now? Well, I just kept going. I felt like Forrest Gump when he just kept running. Side note, oftentimes in the summer when I run, I wear a hat. I have been screamed, run, Forrest, run. I've been screamed at by various passing cars, run, Forrest, run, more times than I can count. Anyways, side note. Which brings us up to today. And actually, this was taken a couple weeks ago, so a couple more days. So today is 1,000 days straight. I made up a milestone, I guess. It's over 2.5 years and a few months shy of 3. 834 TAC days in there too. What to do now? Just keep going. Lastly, but not leastly, I'd like to thank all the great TAC community folk that I've met on the journey so far. It has really helped me to have this ragtag group of people around. And I know for a fact Michael is saying ragtag in the most loving way, referring to his fellow guitar geeks. So cheers, Michael, for sharing that TACiversary with us. Cheers on almost 3 years and 834 days to be exact in Tony's Acoustic Challenge. And what I really appreciate about that is your story and being able to share what the beginning looked like. And it's not like, I'm not trying to emphasize a bleak picture, but what I think is so interesting about that is I think we all have that story where we tried, gave up, tried, gave up, tried, gave up. we kind of dabbled, right? Where you learn a bunch and then you stop learning and you're like, what do I do next? I don't know. And the guitar goes away. And that pattern repeats. And I think it's so significant that you broke that pattern. That's the part that I want to underscore there is you decided, you know what? If I don't have 5 minutes a day, I'm just simply not going to do this. And that little lead domino that you push down created 1,000 days of playing guitar. Sorry, 834 with tack. So again, cheers to you, Michael K., and thanks for sharing that. I want to switch gears here and move on to a performance from one of our fellow guitar geeks, one of our fellow TAC family members. This is John W. Now, I'm going to read what he wrote, and then he has a small win to share after, which I think is really cool and shows the power of community in general. So let me go ahead and share what John wrote, and then we'll have a look at his performance of Billy in the Low Ground. He says this: "Here's my final project for the flat picking jumpstart course. Again, my apologies for the background noise, but that's what you get when you live in New York City. Also, this is not the cleanest that I've ever played this tune. But I'm inspired by you all and your reaction to my first post of Freight Train. I'm not going to let perfection get in the way of a good small win." So that in and of itself cues this up in a pretty solid fashion. But let's go ahead and take a look at John W. playing Billy in the Low Ground. Excellent work, John. I love it. I'm so happy that you were able to share that. And I think it just goes to show that the supportive community is a real thing. Because John was, well, I'll just read his small win. I think this says it all, really. Let me go ahead and pull it up here. John says this: "As I noted in my flat picking video posting of Billy in the Low Ground, it is not my default mode to post a video that isn't as good as I expect. It's a small win that I overcame some of my unrealistic and unhealthy expectations and just posted. The reaction from the community was amazing and helped me understand that perfection is not necessary to show progress. In fact, it probably gets in the way of it." I'm guilty of that, and I'm so pumped that John recognized this with the help of the community. And this, again, it goes back to the inventory I was just talking about at the beginning. And that is this: progress is progress. Plain and simple. Perfection will get in the way of progress. For a healthy guitar routine, we need to feel progress on an incremental level. We can't have these fits and starts where it's all this progress and then none, all this progress and then none. And cheers to John for, you know what, just kind of putting fears aside and say, I'm going to post this video. It's not as perfect as I want it to be, but I think it shows progress and I want to share it with my fellow guitar geeks. I think that's huge, and I think you sharing that, John, is incredible on so many levels. Your stick-to-itiveness with the song is awesome. Your flat pick control is fantastic, and it will only continue getting better. The more that you post, the more that you are able to look at your playing from an objective point of view. That's the other benefit. You know, even if you don't want to share your performance, record yourself, be it audio or video like John did, and say, how am I doing? What does it look like from somebody that's looking at me playing? What does it sound like from somebody that's listening to me playing? That can actually influence a lot of the way that you work and how good you feel about your playing. You might look at yourself on video and say, you know what? That's pretty awesome. I dig that. Nonetheless, thank you so much, John, for sharing that. I also wanted to mention that if you have any questions, please, in the comments, put #question. I'm going to actually take a couple of questions right now, and it looks like we've got a couple coming in already. But if you have one, if one just came up for you, just put #question in the comments, and I'll be sure to go ahead and answer it. Excuse me. Beatrice has our first question here, and she says this: when is the new TAC layout due? I'm glad that you asked, Beatrice, because we've been teasing it for quite a long time, and it's actually one of my news items that I talked about that I was going to talk about later, but since you asked the question, we may as well talk about it now. We are right on the doorstep. And as per usual with me, I get really excited about stuff and I let the cat out of the bag. And then I realize that I should get excited about technical stuff, but I should also keep in mind that technical things generally take a little bit longer than expected. Much like when you're remodeling a house. Generally, the contractor comes in and says, yeah, it'll be 2 months. And then you're sitting at 4 months thinking, oh, man, 2 months was a long time ago. We are actually on schedule. I may have started hinting at it a little too early, but I'm just excited. I'm so excited for you to see this new site. It is truly an upgrade. And I shouldn't even say a new site. It's not going to be that different for current TAC members. It's going to look different, but I think it's going to wow your eyeballs, and ultimately it's going to be much more simple to navigate. So, getting to your question, Beatrice, when is it due? We are looking, and I say this tentatively, so if you want to mark your calendars, please do so in pencil. We've tried a couple different mergings of the sites. A few small problems have come up, so the tech team is dealing with those at the moment. So I'm thinking towards the end of March. Again, pencil this in on your calendar. This is not a definite date. However, I will say this. When we do have a definite date, we will let you know. It's not like you're going to log in and things are going to be vastly different. You will get plenty of email notification that, hey, when you log in, things are going to look different. It's going to be the same TAC that you know and love. It's just going to look different. Some of the navigation will be a little different, but I think it's pretty darn intuitive. I've clicked through the new site time and time again, trying to find ways to break it, trying to find ways to get lost. It's pretty awesome. I think if Apple computers made a website for guitar, this would be it. I know that's a bold statement. That's just my opinion. I'm biased because we've been working really hard on it. The tech team has been working really hard on it. The TAC team has been working really hard on it. And we are right on the doorstep. So I'm thinking, again, end of March. But again, let's put that in pencil because technology is involved. And oftentimes, technology can throw us a couple curveballs. So end of March, but we will certainly let you know via email. Next question comes from Robin. When I am looking up tabs and trying to read them, I often just read them as individual notes instead of thinking of multiple notes as a chord that contains each of these notes. Any help on this? Yes. When you're looking up tabs, I, to a degree, still do this, but I catch myself. I know when I was first playing guitar and tabs were first becoming a thing online, I very much was like this close to the tab, meaning I just would want to dig in right away. I would just want to start with that first measure, that first note, and take it note by note all the way through the song. I'm telling you this. Stop, print out the tab, and make notes on it. And I'm saying this because I want you to have that tab. I want you to learn off tab, of course. I want you to learn with whatever vehicle helps you learn the best. That being said, print it out and zoom out. Zoom out when you're looking at a song. See if you can recognize patterns. See if you can recognize areas that are the same. You know, when I was first learning bluegrass guitar, again, I would zoom in and I would learn it note for note for note for note for note for note. And I ended up doing about 4 times as much work because what I started to notice after zooming out is there were repeated patterns that I could look at and say, oh, okay, if I learn this once, it shows up again there and it shows up again there. So if I learn it once, I've actually learned 30% of the song because that same phrase shows up again and again and again, or maybe even variations of the phrase. So however you learn best, whether it's sheet music or tab or whatever, print it out and look at it as a whole piece of music. Don't just zero in on starting to get to work on it right away. And I say this because you'll recognize patterns, number one, but you can look at chords in a different way. Oftentimes when we look up tab, the chords are tabbed out, notes stacked up, notes stacked on top of one another. And as you're zoomed in, sometimes it's hard to distinguish, is that a chord? Am I playing through this as an arpeggio? Is this a cross-picking thing? What is this? But if you zoom out and you say, okay, where does my fretting hand need to be to achieve this? And if you look at the tab and say, okay, there, oh, that's actually a G chord. I can just mark G above it. And that's a lot of times what I'll do, trying to learn something off of tab. I'll make notes all over that thing. I'll try and identify patterns or repeated phrases with a highlighter. I'll note chords above certain phrases, or if a chord is tabbed out, I'll just write the letter of the chord. Again, if it's a G, I'll just write G on top of the measure. That for me, it works best for my eyes for looking at a piece of music and trying to learn it. So the biggest thing, the biggest recommendation, the biggest suggestion I can offer is that, you know, zooming out and looking at the score as a whole, the score, it sounds like we're in classical music or orchestra class. Looking out at the whole song, from afar allows you to identify those things that when you're zoomed in, you can't necessarily see. So that's what I would recommend. That's a great question, Robin, because a lot of us learn off of tabs. I know I certainly do, and I think a lot of us fall into that pitfall of just getting to work right away on those tabs. But do take a second and kind of survey the whole situation. Elizabeth says this: Run, Tony, run. Any connections between your passion for running with guitar? Awesome question. Yes, a lot. I actually treat hockey and running and general physical activity a lot in the same category as guitar. I'm a very am I a hyper overthinker? Yeah, I'll call myself a hyper overthinker. And what I mean by that is my brain is nonstop going. Sometimes not great. Sometimes it turns into anxiety, if I can be frank with you all. And in that case, guitar actually alleviates that for me. It allows me to kind of switch off that constant overthinking brain and just enter this nice little peaceful zone. And the same thing with running or hockey. It allows me to kind of direct my attention to one thing that I can really focus on, and it kind of tunes out all the extra noise that can happen in my head. Maybe a little personal answer, but you know what? I thought it was a great question. I would dare to say that I'm not alone in that. I think guitar serves as a little chunk of solace for a lot of us guitar geeks. In fact, that's one of the main reasons that I was so drawn to the guitar, because I remember when I was first playing, when I was 18, my dad taught me a couple of things, and I remember being in my room and just being so infatuated with the guitar that a lot of worries in my life at the time just kind of melted away. So that's what it does for me, and certainly running is the same. Another question here. I can't tell who this is from, but it's a great question nonetheless, so I'll read it. Tony, do any of your lessons cover the circle of fifths? I asked because I came across this lesson from an instructor years ago. It ties into the fretboard wizard lessons, and I remember having a wow moment once this sunk in. I want to remember that moment. This is an awesome question because in Fretboard Wizard, I don't talk about the circle of fifths. And I'll tell you why. I think the circle of fifths is a valuable tool, but it is not the first step I want anybody to take in their music theory journey. I'll say that again. I just want to underscore that the circle of fifths is a valuable tool, but it is not the first step I personally want someone to take in their music theory journey. And I'll tell you why. Speaking of Fretboard Wizard, keep your eyes peeled because coming in April, there's going to be another chance to hop in Fretboard Wizard. We'll be going through that course again all together. Again, we'll let you know via email. You guys are taking all my news items, but we'll let you know via email when the official Fretboard Wizard start date will be. Likely middle to end of April, but again, pencil that in on your calendar. You'll be notified via email. So why don't I teach the circle of fifths in Fretboard Wizard? I simply think it's too much at once. It's when you look at the circle of fifths, and for those of you who haven't seen it, you can Google a picture of it. You look at it, and for someone who isn't familiar with theory concepts yet, isn't familiar with note relationships, isn't familiar with even the recipes for a major scale, it's extremely intimidating. And I say that because I felt the same thing. I took a music theory class at William Rainey Harper College in, I think, Arlington Heights, Illinois. It's either Algonquin or Arlington Heights, Illinois. Nonetheless, it was right next to Schaumburg. It was a community college. That's where I ended up going. Took a music theory class. And we had a music theory workbook in this class. And I remember opening it up, and on the very first page was the circle of fifths. And I thought to myself, in my desk, what the hell did I just get myself into? Again, I'm not discounting the value of the circle of fifths. This is the impact that it had on me. And it immediately conjured up this image, this feeling for me that I'm in over my head. I can't do this. I don't ever want anybody to feel that way, which is why I approach music theory a little bit differently and a little bit more specific to the guitar. Because music theory, there's a lot of concepts. And I think a lot of folks make it complicated to keep it up on this shelf that's only reserved for certain people. That's BS. Music theory is for everybody. You just need to learn it so that it's applicable to what you use it for. Meaning, I want you to learn the 20% of music theory that you're gonna use 95% of the time. Yes, that other stuff is there. Yes, it's valuable. But if you don't use it, it's actually of no value. If you do use it, it is very valuable, which is why I focus on that 20% that is usable nearly all of the time. That being the case, I approach music theory at a more zoomed in level where we look at notes and their relationships. We look at constructing a major scale, and we look at how chords are constructed from that major scale. So we're really looking at one given key. We're really looking at one given set of chords for that key and looking at what the universal rules we can pull out of that are. That being the case, once you understand those universal rules, once you understand the inner workings of a major scale, of the major chords within that scale, you can then look at the circle of fifths and connect the dots because you have that knowledge, you have that context. That's exactly why I don't bring up the circle of fifths within Fretboard Wizard, because I want the focus to be on the inner workings of a major scale and the chords that are derived from it. Once you have that, then if you want to pursue the circle of fifths, you'll make a lot more connections a lot easier. Whereas if I started with it, I don't necessarily think that would be the case. Again, that's based off of my experience. Different people have different ways of teaching it. I just find that I think the way that I teach it is the way that I learned it on guitar. And I thought, I'm a guitar player, so I should teach theory to other guitar players through the lens of the guitar. Anyways, that's me. Long answer to a short question, but that's kind of the background on that. And a great question because Fretboard Wizard is right around the corner. Mountain Mike asks this question: any tips on fingernail trimming and maintenance for finger picking? Yes, and I just learned this stuff. Not this stuff, but this little thing I'm going to share with you, and I don't know the name, so maybe I shouldn't share it with you. I'm going to share it with you anyway. I just broke a bunch of fingernails on my picking hand, and it really bummed me out. I was untying my skates after a hockey game, and I don't know what happened, but my thumbnail broke, and that's always been my pride and joy, my thumbnail, because it handles a lot of picking. So we're getting there. We're getting back to full length, but it's not quite there. And then I broke another one shoveling snow. Anyways, that's besides the point. Fingernail trimming, fingernail shaping, fingernail filing. This is tough because some of us can't grow fingernails that are strong. Some of us, it's I don't know if it's a chemistry thing. I don't know if it's a diet thing. I'm not a doctor. I have no idea. I've always been lucky enough to have pretty sturdy fingernails. So I've been able to play with the shapes of the fingernails and how I file them and how I treat them. Generally speaking, what I do is I try and file my fingernails frequently, and I do so to maintain their shape. The longer they get, the more brittle they get. You don't want to break them. And so I keep them, actually, this is about the ideal length, and I don't know if you all can see this, but this is about how far I have them protruding from my fingertip, so that they can catch the string without even touching my finger pad, right? It gives me the option to use finger pads or fingernails. So this is what I just learned. This is what I wanted to share with you. In terms of filing, I think it's important to do it frequently. It's also important to do it with a finer grit file. And this is something I just picked up from Dustin Furlow. I think I have the connection correct. He's a great fingerstyle guitar player, amazing fingerstyle guitar player. And he posted a picture, this was on Instagram, he posted a picture of this nail file kit. And it went through all the different grits. And I thought to myself, that's a little excessive. And then I read the description. And he was saying something about being in the studio, and he was saying this nail file kit allowed him to get great tone. So I tried it. If you simply file your fingernails with a rougher nail file, a lower grit, it gives you a rough finish on your fingernail. The likelihood of the edge lasting is not very long. The likelihood of you actually breaking or chipping the nail is highly likely because of that rough edge. Whereas if you go through the grits to finer grit, you get a nice polished nail edge, which is less likely to break, more likely to give you good tone, and more likely to last longer. So I would say frequent filing with a higher grit or a finer grit so that you have a nice smooth nail finish that kind of translates to good tone and ultimately a longer lasting fingernail. Great question. I got one more here. Question. Tone, what do you think about Loudon guitars? I know you rarely use European guitars, but I'm excited to hear your take. I love Loudon guitars. In fact, I am not particular to any guitar of any specific geographic location. I welcome all guitars equally. It's just it's more of availability. You know, when I worked at Music Villa, they did not carry Loudon. They didn't. They carried kind of the big ones. You know, the Martins, the Taylors. We had some. We had Gibson, of course, and then some other brands as well. Some stuff would come in used, but Loudon was one that never really came in used. But check this out. I went to Vegas, Las Vegas 2 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago. Holy smokes. I went to Las Vegas and visited Brendan at Heartbreaker Guitars, and they're a full line Loudon dealer. And I got to play a ton of Loudons. I was blown away, totally blown away. Um, I did end up leaving with a Bourgeois large sound hole OMC, but that's because I was smitten with how it looked, and it was exactly the tone I was looking for what I was looking for. That being said, Loudons are incredible. The build quality is top notch. I love the satin finish. It just feels good to play on, but I also love their use of various. I was going to say alternative tone woods, but that's really not fair. They use a lot of cedars. They use a lot of kind of periphery tone woods that I think yield great results. But also playability wise, I found them to be pretty darn incredible as well. I can't remember the model I played. Was it a Pierre Ben Susan model? No, it was another jazz artist. I can't remember. My memories is not on point today. Nonetheless, great instruments, and I certainly there's a Loudon in my future. I know. I just have to find the right one. Really particular to their cedar models. I played a cedar and rosewood model at Heartbreaker, and that was in the running. It was right on par with the Bourgeois. I also played another model that had Koa and had this wonderful, almost frosty tone. Anyways, I'm getting a little too deep in my brain there. Let me just shift gears now. If you do have any more questions, please again put #question in the comments, and I'll get to some more questions here in just a moment. We're going to look at a couple performances and some Tackiversary celebrations. Let's start with the Tackiversary, and I actually have a picture for this one, which is always my favorite because you get to put a face to the name, and hopefully I do say this name correctly. This is Ciaran, and this is his first Tackiversary, and we asked him 3 questions, and this is how he responded. Where were you with guitar when you joined? I was mostly playing, but the fun and creativity had gone. I've written my own songs since 2009, and I have the talent, but zero consistency. I also had zero understanding of scales and theory, which I think really pings back to what we were talking about initially with this guitar routine inventory. You need that consistency. And to have the consistency, you need fun. And it sounds like when he first started Tack, the fun and creativity were gone. Therefore, the consistency followed suit. What are 3 things that you can do now that you couldn't do before Tack? Number 1, firstly and most importantly, I couldn't keep to a weekly practice routine, and now I can. Secondly, the fretboard was a mystery to me. I still have a long way to go, but I now am starting to make sense of it, albeit very slowly. Finally, I'd say not so much what I couldn't do, but what I'd lost. I'd lost my mojo. My passion for guitar is now back, and I've never been happier picking up, practicing, and playing the guitar. And the final question is really more of a statement. Complete this statement. It would be amazing if this time next year I can, first, become Michael Bolton, and second, be able to fully play Rory Gallagher's song Unmilitary Two-Step. Fantastic set of goals there, Ciaran, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I think it's so cool to hear, again, when we share these I almost say guitar songs, when we share these Tackiversaries, what I love about them is it allows you to look at other guitar geeks and their journey, and you start to realize there's a lot of commonalities between us. And again, I'm a guitar geek just like you're a guitar geek. And when I read these stories, it's like, man, I remember times when my fun and creativity were gone, and I remember exactly how that impacted my guitar journey because I didn't play that much. And it's just cool to hear it from a different perspective and know that, you know what, you're not alone. If you're having some sort of bump in the road in your guitar journey, you're likely not alone. There is a way to get past it, and that's what I really like about these Tackiversaries is it kind of shows you that, you know what, there's light at the end of this tunnel, indeed. The next thing I want to share is less of a Tackiversary and more of a small win, and I want to introduce you to Michelle. Michelle has a really great small win that is hidden as she says, a backhanded compliment. Let me go ahead and read this for you. This is Michelle. She says, my husband has been my wonderful patient, tolerant, #1 audience member since I started playing ukulele in April, and then guitar in June. But lately, he hasn't been very excited or even interested when I run into the living room with my instrument in hand to demo my latest song, technique, or whatever. So I asked him if he was getting tired of my little quote unquote performances. He sighed and said no, but he was getting worried that I was getting so good that I was going to go on the road and leave him and Gracie, our dog, behind. And he was serious. Well, of course, I had a real good laugh and told him that there's no way I'd ever leave him and Gracie behind because I needed personal groupies, and they would have to follow me wherever I went. But I was truly floored. This was such a great backhanded compliment. My small win of the month. So awesome, and thank you for sharing that, Michelle. I think one of the coolest moments is that, especially for either people that live with other folks or if your spouse is around and kind of watching your guitar journey from afar, when they recognize improvement, when they recognize progress, it's one of the best feelings in the world because they hear everything. And when they see it, it kind of helps you look at your guitar journey and say, oh, it's almost like a forced reflection. It's like, oh, I actually am getting better, and this person has heard me the whole way along, and that's so awesome. And I think that's great, Michelle. So I think it's cool that you have your personal groupies to go on the road with. I love it. I love it. That's so fantastic. I got a couple performances that I want to share with you. I had originally slated this for news, but you took all my news. You took all my news. The new platform is coming again. Pencil your calendars in for later in March. You'll be getting emails notifying you that it is coming. Kind of some sneak peeks, so you know what to expect when you walk into the new tack. And then, of course, Fretboard Wizard is right around the corner. Again, we're thinking end of April on that. But again, you'll be notified for certain. Let's dig into a couple performances. I've got one here from Dan D, and he soloed over the raking the leaves exercise. And, well, I'll make some comments after we listen to Dan. Here's his performance. What a great performance from Dan. I love it. There's so much. I took some notes. First and foremost, the musicality was top notch. I mean, just a treat to listen to. In fact, when I first was listening to that, I thought to myself, when he was playing chords at the beginning, I got this America vibe, the band America. And I just thought, it's so cool to play something and immediately have a reference pop in your head. I mean, I think that's a true sign of really excellent musicality. And then specifically the solo portion, I wrote down bends, phrasing, and position shifts. The bends were in tune and so tastefully done. It just really brings in that vocal quality and kind of it allows you to really squeeze out the emotion of the note. His phrasing, it wasn't a steady stream of notes. There was pause for breath or musical space. And I think that right there is a huge element to remember, that while you're playing a solo, while you're playing music, it's okay to stop and breathe a little bit. Take a look around, see what you've done, see how it's impacting the listener, and just in general, insert that space when you can, because it allows the listener to have a little bit of a break and digest what you just did and then go in for more. And I thought that Dan did a great job of that. The final thing I'll mention here is position shifts. And that is one thing that I think Dan did really well there. And you could see him playing all over the neck. And he shifted positions in such a confident and succinct way. It was really great to see. So all in all, Dan, thank you so much for sharing that with us. What a great performance, and truly an inspirational one, and one that we can all learn from. I've got one more performance, and this is from Sandra. Sandra got herself a new Recording King resonator, and she could not help but want to share it with her fellow guitar geeks. So this is Sandra and her new guitar.
מקדש ושכנתי בתוכה ואנחנו נברכיה מעתה ועד עולם. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Holy, Shahar Zedek, Abovam, Odeya, Zehasham, Radonai, Zadikim, Abu. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Love that. A great smile at the end. And why wouldn't you smile when you have an awesome resonator and it just pulls out that creativity and that passion for guitar? It's funny, when I came upon that post, I thought, wow, this is awesome. Sandra added a resonator to her guitar arsenal. And then upon further reading, that's her third resonator guitar. So she clearly has a knack for the resonator guitar, and that one does sound awesome. She did mention in her post that one is her current favorite, and I think it matches her voice really well. And that's one of the things I wanted to mention with that performance specifically. I think it's important to keep an open mind when it comes to other instruments. And I say this because her performance made me think of this. So often I think and I do this too, we peg resonators or a specific type of instrument for a specific type of song. Sandra was strumming that resonator. It sounded awesome with her voice, and it created this wonderful timbre, this almost counter timbre to her voice. The guitar had its own slice of the sonic pie, and her voice had the other slice of the sonic pie. So thank you for sharing that with us, Sandra. Congrats on the new instrument, and just goes to show, just because people say resonators are only for the blues and only for fingerpicking, that's not true. It's a false rule. It's not a rule. It's a made up. It's something we made up. So awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sandra. I do want to open up the floor for questions if you have any questions. I saw a couple kind of fly by. So if you do have a question, again, put #question in the comments, and I'll go ahead and hit those right now if you do have one. There was one over on the YouTube side that I wanted to address because it was a rather timely one, actually. And it came from Harmless Rebel. What's the recommended experience level for the Fretboard Wizard program? And this is such a great question, and one I get so often, and that is this. It actually is applicable to any level. The way that I teach it is for the guitar, but it doesn't mean that you have to have a certain skill set going in. What you're looking at with Fretboard Wizard is, again, 20% of the music theory that you're going to use 95% of the time. So if you're new to guitar, if you're brand spanking new, you're going to start to learn why chords sound good together, why certain chords sound good together, how to actually create a major scale, and you'll find out it's actually not that difficult. But more importantly, it starts to give you the why behind what you're actually learning. So often when people first start, they're like, yeah, I'm learning all these chords and I don't know where they come from. I saw them in the chord book and I put my fingers here and it sounds good. You're actually going to learn why it sounds good and why it's connected to other chords, why you'll look up a song and see the same set of chords again and again and again. And that's because of what you'll learn in Fretboard Wizard. So it's really open to any level, and I think it creates a wonderful foundation for you to grow your guitar journey from if you're just starting. If you've been playing for a while, it's equally good because it gives you the reasoning behind what you've been doing all this time if you've never actually realized what it is. And I don't say that in a negative way. I mean, a lot of times we get into playing guitar, things sound good under our fingers, we're playing songs, we never question it. But when those questions start to arise, like, I wonder how people play solos. I wonder why these chords are connected. I wonder where these chords even come from. Those are the questions that actually will draw you into Fretboard Wizard and start to further develop your understanding of what you've been doing all along. So it's really open to any level, and any level would benefit from it. A couple questions did come in here. Lori asks this: can you give some advice on playing positions and posture? I keep struggling to find the sweet spot with fretting hand angle, seat height, and neck angle. Thanks. This is a loaded question. It's really different for everyone. I'll recommend you really kind of hit all the spots here. You've got fretting hand angle, seat height, and neck angle. I'll first say this: I think it benefits everybody to have a strap while you're playing, whether that's seated and you're not technically using the strap, or if you're standing. Obviously, if you're standing, I definitely want you to have a strap. And I say this because it can actually help solidify the guitar so that it doesn't wobble around or move around on you. As far as fretting hand angle, we're all built a little different, but I will say this: if you find that your wrist is doing weird things like this, bugging out, or you're kind of doing like this thing, chances are how you're approaching the guitar neck is fundamentally not working for you. Because you want your wrist to be relatively, I can move this microphone just a little bit. You want your wrist to be relatively relaxed when you play. You don't want it like way back here. You don't want it way out here. If you're trying to introduce arch in your fingers and your wrist is like that, you're gonna annihilate your wrist. So how do you fix that? First, make sure you're fretting on your fingertips, the very tips of your fingers. That will introduce the arch that you need so that the strings can ring clearly. Second, if you're not getting all the arch that you need, take the palm of your fretting hand, move it closer to the guitar neck. See what that does to the arch in my fingers? You can actually visually see it. It introduces more arch, so now the strings can ring clearly. But it also alleviates any wrist issues you might have, because so many times people want to push out to get more arch. Actually, you push in, and it keeps your wrist at a much more relaxed, in a much more relaxed state. The next part that you asked was seat height. Again, this is different for everyone. I prefer. I like to play seated. I don't love playing standing up. I will. It's not the end of the world. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take my left foot and put it underneath my right foot. I know this is a weird description, but essentially my right foot's on top of my left foot, and that elevates the guitar so that it kind of puts it in a nice playing position for me. That's different for everybody. You can get a footstool. I would strongly recommend a footstool over stepping on your other foot. Probably not the best thing in the world, but in absence of a footstool, it will work. Footstools are great because it allows you to bring the guitar up without having to modify your seat height. But it gives you that stable leg, so you can confidently rest the guitar on your leg knowing that it's not going anywhere. And then neck angle. There's really two options in my book. Number one is kind of playing it just like this, flat, or quote unquote folk style. This is generally harder on the wrist. a lot of times people just start out this way because the guitar has a little indent in the bottom. It sits on your leg real nice and easy, and why question it? It's actually a little bit harder on the wrist. I find that if you play it in a classical style where the lower bout, this part of the guitar, is actually between your legs, holding the neck at a 45-degree angle, it actually allows you to approach the neck in a much more neutral fashion so that you don't have to bend your wrist in any weird way. And it also provides a nice, stable spot for the guitar to rest so that you can leverage the guitar if you're doing bar chords or something like that. So just a couple of options for you. I would recommend trying out different things. If what you're currently doing doesn't work for you, mess with that classical guitar position. That's a lot of times the tweak that some people make, and it alleviates wrist problems. It alleviates fretting consistency, or I should say it brings about more fretting consistency, and ultimately feels a little bit more comfortable for both the picking hand and the fretting hand. It's mirrored, so I always get confused when I'm looking at this camera. Anyways, great question, Lori, and thank you for that. Ed G asked this question: which mahogany guitar do you prefer, Guild M20 or Martin 00015 SM? If it was like 3 years ago, I'd say the Martin 00015 SM. Still a great guitar. I want to make sure that I say that because I don't think it's a bad guitar. I think it's an awesome guitar. But to me, the Guild M20, they hit a complete grand slam with that guitar. When I demoed that guitar, this was again some years ago, I was blown away. I couldn't believe what I was playing and what I was hearing. So yeah, if given the option between those two right now on this very day, I would choose the Guild M20. That's just for me. Vic G asked this: how about a quick 1-minute rake lesson from an earlier discussion? And that was in reference to Dan D. Now the rake, that's a term that I use. I don't know if it's a widely accepted term, but to me, it's what it sounds like. And you can do it. You can achieve it a number of different ways. You can achieve it with a flat pick, or you can achieve it with finger picking. And what it is it's a way to emphasize the note. Of course, the microphone is literally right where I don't want it to be. So it's a way to emphasize the note. And I guess it's like adding an exclamation point to the note that you're intending to play. So if you're doing it finger style, essentially, I'll be picking the note with my middle finger, be the 5th fret on the high E string, and my thumb is on the G, my index is on the B. And all I'm doing is hitting those dead. Okay? So it kind of, if I'm doing it slowly, and if you want to practice this, now, of course, when I play it in time, it's much faster than that. So that's with a finger, or that's just playing with your fingers. And again, what it does is it allows you to emphasize a note. Will you do it for the entire solo? Likely not. But it allows you to enter or maybe exit a solo, meaning that first note, it kind of perks everybody's ears up like, whoa, okay, this individual means business. Or, okay, this is when the solo is clearly starting. So it allows you to kind of elevate your dynamic so that if you're playing in a group setting or if you're playing to a recording, it kind of bops you. It kind of I said bops. Yeah, we'll go with bops. Bops you up above that kind of steady rhythm so that, okay, this is my little sonic slice of pie. The same thing's true with a flat pick. But this time the muting is done with my palm. Okay, so it's no longer with the fretting hand, it's with the palm of my picking hand. So it kind of like, you know who does it well? If you're looking for a great example of this, just kind of generally listening, Derek Trucks does it really well in a fingerstyle way. And then B.B. King in the flat picking world, because his single notes are so powerful. It's a great study. That being said, you'll notice that these players don't use the rake all the time. They use it for emphasis. It's a great tool to have in your toolbox. But if you're doing it with your finger picking, the muting of the strings is coming from your fretting hand, whereas when you're doing it with a flat pick, the muting of the strings is actually coming from your palm, right? So you're playing 2 to 3 muted strings before you strike the note that's going to ring clear. And again, it's just used for emphasis. Great question, Vic. Thank you for asking that. I love those technique questions. I really appreciate that. This is a question from Sophie. Hi, Tony. Asking again, just in case. Is there such a thing as the curse of the B string? It always sounds out of tune. Any tips or ideas to help? It drives me insane. It drives all of us insane, Sophie. The B string is a notorious bugger. Now, I say this because it actually changes depending on what key you're in. And I don't want to open up a huge can of worms, but when you're playing in the key of G, for example, G is the third note of the chord. For a G major chord, you have G, B, and D. The third, the note that occupies the third of that chord, generally speaking, needs to be subtly more flat than in tune. Okay, so if you're tuning to a tuner, you tune your B string just maybe a 5 cents flat. Okay, what it does is it sweetens the tuning, but it also allows you to play truly in tune as much as we can on a guitar. So generally speaking, that third is what's going to make it sound out of tune. Now, this sounds a little bit paradoxical. No, sounds a little bit juxtaposed. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. It's like, okay, wait, you want me to tune my B string flat so that I can play in tune? Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that because that third, when the first, the third, and the fifth of the chord are all in tune, it sounds a little bit sterile, it sounds a little bit cold, and it sounds actually out of tune. When that third note, the third, is actually tuned a little bit flatter, again, it sweetens the tuning and makes it sound more in tune. Now, here's the problem. We can't go through and do this for every chord, nor would I want you to. But for the one chord in any given key, generally speaking, the third of that chord should be tuned subtly flat. I'm not talking drastically flat. I'm not talking like a half step. I'm talking like little cents. You know, on the guitar tuner dial, you want it just below in tune. Like if this is in tune, you want it just below. Okay, so what's ironic here is that if you're playing in the key of G, you detune that B subtly, and then you move to play in the key of C. When you play your C chord, it's going to sound a little bit odd. It's going to sound a little bit out of tune. So this has to do with Western tuning and how everything we play is out of tune, because you're supposed to tune for a specific key. But some keys are a little bit more egregious than others. Like the key of G is notoriously does not get along with the B string. The key of E notoriously does not get along with the G string. So you have to make some subtle adjustments on the tuning, and it does come from the third. Without getting into too many more details, because I don't want to like go off on a total tangent. But generally, that's the case that with the B string. And even if you look at, your saddles are intonated on the acoustic guitar. You look at it's all a straight line until the B string comes, and then all of a sudden there's this big adjustment made for the intonation of the B string, and it has a lot to do with the fact that generally the B string is a pain in our necks. But if we know how to subtly accommodate for it, it becomes a little bit more pleasing to the ears. Great questions, everybody. I really appreciate you asking and having that discussion. It's pretty fun to do. Now, I do want to give a guitar away. I have these darts here. I lost one dart, but I have two, so hopefully I can hit somebody's profile picture in 2 darts. That being said, this is what I want you to do while I'm giving the guitar away. I want to know what small win you've had over the last month. So in the comments, please put hashtag small win, and I'll go ahead and read through those here in a little bit. But I want you to celebrate. I want you to look back at your guitar journey over the last month and just ask yourself the question, what went well? What's one thing that went well? Maybe it's the fact that you were consistent this whole month, and that felt good. Maybe it's the fact that every time you sat down with the guitar, you had fun, because we all know that fun leads to consistency. Maybe it's the fact that you learned a new song. Maybe you performed a song. Maybe You changed your strings for the first time. Maybe you adjusted your truss rod for the first time. What I'm trying to get to the point I'm trying to make here is that no win is too small. So please, in the comments, put hashtag small win and share your small win with me and the other guitar geeks watching this show. And I'll go ahead and read those here in a moment. But now I'm going to throw some darts at that piece of paper on the dartboard over there. On that piece of paper are the profile pictures that of the people that finished the practice plan for February. They logged in every day. They put in their 10 minutes. They marked that exercise complete. They got their picture on that piece of paper. I always do that. Now I'm going to throw a dart. Whoever it lands on wins a Taylor GS Mini. Without further ado, let me go ahead and do that right now. Make sure to get your small wins in. Again, hashtag small win in the comments, and I'll read those here in just a little bit. Oh. No profile picture on that one. Can't give it away to that one. There we go. Okay, the dart has landed, and I am ready to look up the winner. But while I do so, let me go ahead and get those small wins rolling, everybody. Oh my god, wow, there are quite a few small wins here. They're actually flying by. I cannot read them at the moment. I'll consolidate them here in a second. Let me find out who the winner actually is, and it should be pretty easy because the picture is one that is, well, pretty darn easy to see. So let me go ahead. Catherine S. Catherine S. has won the Taylor GS Mini today, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations, Catherine S. Where's my special button here? There we go. Congratulations, Catherine S. You've won yourself a Taylor GS Mini. We'll ship it directly to your door. And great job being a consistently guitar routined. Great job having a consistent guitar routine, Catherine. Really appreciate, I always appreciate that. And, you know, everybody that had their picture on there, it just goes to show. I mean, there are tons of people on this. God, the camera. There are a ton of people on this particular this sheet here that finished February's practice plan, and that in and of itself is a huge win. I mean, when you're able to commit to a month's worth of 10 minutes a day, that's huge. I'm not only to get entered in to win a guitar, but just to look back on a month and say, I did it. I logged in every day. I played guitar every day. And again, we know that if we're having fun and being consistent, focusing on the right things, the progress will come. It's just by virtue of that Guitar Geek math equation. Am I onto something there? Anyways, let me dig into a couple of these small wins here. We've got, wow, holy smokes. I'm trying to go way back. Let's see if I can do this. Suzanne says, small win, playing along with songs. Indeed. Scott says, small win, I finally got my C chord to sound clean. That's huge. That's huge because you're reaching over a ton of strings with the C chord. Martin O says, small win, played and sang in front of my wife for the first time. That's so awesome. I remember I remember my first singing in front of somebody else. And it's a huge accomplishment, Martin. So you should be super, super excited. Congratulations to you. Henrik L. Small wins. Made 3 new songs with Fletch. That's outstanding. That's awesome. Kevin says, small win. Learned how to effectively do bar chords. It is awesome. That's what I was referring to earlier. Bar chords, for as much of a pain in the neck as they are, they're that beneficial. So yeah, at the beginning, pain in the neck, not easy to do. But once you actually climb over that mountain, it opens up a whole new world of the fretboard, and understanding and playing. That's really awesome. So Kevin, congratulations on that. NorCal Nolan R says this, small win, my 90-day goal was to focus more on soloing and post a solo to the Wednesday Solo Zone. I did focus more and have posted a couple of times on the Solo Zone. That's awesome, Nolan. I think that's so awesome. And thank you for tying in your 90-day goal to this. To track along on a 90-day goal and to achieve it is awesome. And it sounds like you did that, Nolan. It sounds like you went above and beyond, which is fantastic. Which brings me to that other point. If you were tracking on your 90-day goal and maybe kind of things didn't go as well, or you took a detour, that's not it's okay. You have time to adjust, and we're going to do that next month. April 7th at 11 a.m., we'll do our 90-day our 90-day goal setting workshop, and you'll have a chance to adjust. It's all about adjusting and finding what works for you. So thank you for sharing that, Nolan. That's awesome. Jan H, small win, memorized a finger picking rag from start to finish. Fantastic. Good job. Todd S, I made an F chord once, and that sounded good. Well, that's darn good. It's better than no F chords, right? Charlie B says, small win, learning a new song. John S, small win, learned a new blues riff. Let's see. Oh, I didn't want to read that one again. Sarah Wilcox says, small win, I nailed the rake. I thought it was totally impossible. Then it clicked. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. It's so cool, when you look at a technique, or when you hear a technique or see somebody else play a technique, and that thought comes into your brain like, wow, that's really cool, but I don't think I can do that. When you actually put the time in and you do it, that feels incredible. So congratulations. That's awesome. I can bring my mic over here. There we go. I was wondering what that thing was on the side of the screen. I was like, oh, it was the microphone. Jim says, Tony, you mentioned my biggest small win. I'm trying new things and progressing. As a result, my wife has become more tolerant and even encouraged me to practice. There's a lot of wins in there. But I think it's great to recognize the fact that focusing on something outside your comfort zone is a win in and of itself, because it takes a lot of discipline to do that. You actually, pushing yourself outside your comfort zone sounds easy to say, but when you sit down with the guitar in your hand, it's difficult, because we want to lean on those common patterns. We want to lean on those things we know will sound good. Sounding bad is something that's difficult to do, but when you try something new, you sound bad because you haven't done it before. But the more you try something new, the more you learn, which is actually how you sound good. Kind of weird detour there, but it's true. So congratulations, Jim. That's awesome. Angelo says this, small win. I just started tack last Friday night and can see that my finger picking is improving. Love it, Angelo. Welcome to the fam. Thanks so much for sharing a small win with us. Mark says, small win, chord transitions are coming easier. Rick C, small win, better chord transitions. Christopher H, small win, I installed 2 strap buttons after watching Tony's video, how to do it. That's awesome, and there's nothing more nerve-wracking than doing that for the first time. You did it twice, Christopher, and that's fantastic. K-Man says, small win, fun every time. That is an enormous win. That's a big, big time win. Mark C says, completed 2 months in TAC. Tanya L, small win, Tiny Habits book is helping me develop new habits. Thanks. That's awesome, Tanya. I'm so happy to hear that. And I want to share a small win. I just actually finished my Tiny Habits coach certification, which was something I just wanted to do because I thought, I'm telling people about guitar routines and consistency, and I want to be able to help people as best I can. So I read the Tiny Habits book some time ago, and then I saw that there was a Tiny Habits coach certification. I thought, if anything's going to help, it's the insight that I'll gain from other people developing habits that I can share with the TAC fam. And I really had a blast. I learned a ton, and I'm excited to I'm excited to tell you that Tony's Acoustic Challenge, almost unknowingly, I didn't know it before when we were developing the program, but it follows the Tiny Habits recipe. And I now can see that because I've delved into Tiny Habits. But Tanya, I'm so glad that the book is helping you not only, develop guitar habits, but other new habits in your life. I think that's fantastic. Jerry learned to do a pull-off. That's his small win. Small win from Patty C, showing up and working on this every day. Fantastic. Pam S, small win, attended my first live jam session at a local park. Loved it, and the chance to hang out playing guitar with an awesome group of fellow guitar geeks. That's huge. I got to tell you, I miss playing with other people so much. And Pam, it's so great that you were able to do that outside, in a setting that, was not a tiny room and safe for everybody. So that's awesome. Mountain Mike says, small win. My wife commented that I sounded good on a piece that I had worked on for a month. Normally, she says I sound always the same. For example, bad. I love it, Mike. Thanks for sharing that. So awesome. SoCal Ian says, small win. I played a Friday night virtual open mic, and the next day I showed my friends, a beginner, how to play the song that I performed. That's a double win. Not only did you perform, but you taught somebody else. That's huge. A couple more here, and then I'll have to wrap it up for us. Puppy Doc says, small win. Gas treatment. I bought a Zager ZAD 900 and love it. Fantastic. Fletchy Poo, old Fletchy Poo, says this small win. Just bought a lovely new Loudon strap for my lovely Aisling because she's worth it. I'm so happy to hear that, Fletch. Fantastic. Small win from Jim. Tony, you mentioned my biggest small win. I'm trying new things and progressing. As a result, my wife has. I read that one already. I'm just repeating myself. So clearly, I do need more coffee. I haven't even drank. Nobody commented on my cool mug. I don't know if you saw that. You'll know where to get these here in a little bit. Small win. I got a cool new coffee mug and a cool new hat and a cool new hockey hat. You'll see those in a little bit. Phil M from Virginia says, still leaving your guitars under the dartboard. I'm sorry. I usually move them. This was an anomaly because I had the darts in my hand. I threw it and I was like, oh my God, the guitars are under there. I am gaining confidence in my darts, but bounce outs happen. Sorry about that. That's not good. I owe you guys for that one. Christopher A says, small win. I think the best thing for me is I'm really starting to get much more comfortable and I think more competent with my finger picking. It has been a lot of fun. So great to see. And I just want to thank everyone for sharing all the small wins. Sarah W. just put one in here. Small win. Sarah win. Sarah W. says, small win. I bought a Maton Performer. That's actually a big win. Love it. Sharon T. says this. She bought a perfect guitar nut. And this is in reference to the Tonal Experiments Acoustic Tuesday show. In fact, I saw this. Sharon posted this on Facebook because she got some Black Mountain thumb picks and that nut extender that will allow her to turn her acoustic guitar into essentially a lap slide guitar, so she can practice playing that way as well. Which I should add this, and then I promise I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop talking. I should mention this: playing lap style guitar is something that, first of all, it sounds really cool. I'm 100% addicted to it. I love it. It's amazing, but playing lap style guitar actually allows you to look at the guitar from a different perspective, and it allows you to start seeing patterns that maybe you would miss otherwise. And that's one of the huge things that I've noticed, in playing dobro or lap steel or anything like that, is I'm looking at the fretboard from that helicopter view. So I'm able to start recognizing patterns. And then when I go and play regular guitar, the regular way, those patterns translate. Maybe not necessarily the tuning, but that view of the fretboard translates. So I think it's awesome. I'm super, super stoked to hear that. And on that same note, John B says, small win, I'm dabbling in banjo. You're going to scare the neighborhood away. Why would you do that? No, I'm just kidding. Banjo's actually a pretty darn awesome instrument. And if you checked out that Acoustic Tuesday episode, I can't remember the number, but it was 5 tonal experiments. You'll be able to see, or maybe, no. Yeah? No, it's coming up. It's coming up. Make sure to stay tuned to the Acoustic Tuesday show. Next week, I'm going to be talking about 5 instruments that will influence your guitar playing that are not guitar. Hint, banjo is one of them. I recorded it a couple days ago, so I'm actually I'm jumping the gun, but I'm giving you the sneak peek. What can I say? I need to coffee up. I need to wrap this. I need to drive this ship home. I need to put it into the dock. I need to park the car. I need to land the plane. I need to get more coffee. I appreciate you joining me so much. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Thank you for being a guitar geek and just being a part of such a wonderful community and such a great community that not only supports one another, but really helps us each achieve our dreams and kind of gives us that cheering section that I think we all need as guitar geeks. So thank you again. Note, our next guitar party is going to happen April 7th at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and that's when we'll do our 90-day goal-setting workshop. Again, it's going to give you a chance to reflect on the last 90 days, see what went well, see what needs to be tweaked, and then chart a path going forward for the next 90 days. Thank you again so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I wish you the best, most awesome month. Make sure to check out the Acoustic Tuesday show. That's every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. If you have not done so yet, I think you'll find that just another chunk of inspiration for your guitar journey. So again, thanks so much. Have a great month, and I'll see you next month and maybe sooner on the Acoustic Tuesday.